born in a day where my father had a match. My daughter was born when I had a match, and my son was born when I had a match. That's been my life. There are many ways to be or not to be. In my case, to be. In other cases, of not to be. You have many examples of people with apparently all the conditions to be, and then in the end they are not. Without one area of the formation, you are not complete. And I used to divide it in three parts. One is the academic formation. One is your experience and your understanding of the game that comes from the experience you had in the game. So I think people that they were big football players, they have this part that I think is also very, very important. And the third part is your talent. That doesn't come from the formation, is your talent. It's like the School of Arts, for example. You know, person can go to the best School of Arts, but then if you are not meant to be, you are not going to be. And that's for me the most important part of it. Is in your blood, is genetic, is in your DNA. Do you have the talent or you don't have the talent? My father was a player until I was probably 9, 10, and then became a manager. So when he was a manager and I was on my 12, 13, 14, I was going into his world, and the kind of discussion I was having with him, the kind of little jobs he was giving me in a generation where the coaching staffs were not like today, and at that time was about the manager and probably one assistant, and that's it. And when I was doing a position analyze, when I was analyzing his own team, when I was giving him my reports, I think we both understood at the same time. He understood that I was that, and I understood also that I had a much more potential to be a football coach than to be a football player, which was what at that time every kid of my age in love with football wanted to be. I think, especially in Portugal, because it is a social environment that more or less I can control. I can say there is a pre-Jose and a after Jose. After my success in abroad, starts a new generation of young people that they want to be football managers. But before that, on the 70s, on the 80s, everybody wants to be a player, and I was a case of that. But I understood that my talent it was on the other side of the game. My coaching course was 3 years of sports science, but after that, 2 years of football methodology. Because sometimes the sports science take us into a direction where is sometimes difficult to understand if it is sports or if it is science. And football will be always a sport, at least for my perspective. It was really important for me and was kind of a new way to prepare yourself to be a football manager. The incredible thing was that because I was working in a club before Porto, Leiria, of course, I was working with a club with not the financial potential to think big, to buy big, and to scout in the top, let's say, places, I was really aware of lots of young talent in smaller teams. We were not afraid to change completely the direction of Porto by getting the best young players in the smaller clubs in Portugal. We didn't get one single player by millions or coming from top clubs. Everybody was young, was angry, had big motivation, had big desire. And when I start working with them in the next pre-season, I answered immediately to a few question marks that I had, which was their psychological dimension to adapt to a different reality and to cope with that pressure, to cope with that responsibility, to come from a smaller team to one of the big clubs in Portugal. Sometimes you have to be also lucky, because you can scout and scout and scout, and I know that in this moment there are many complex structures of scouting, and then sometimes complex doesn't mean efficient, but if you use that complexity to try to be efficient, I think yes, you have to analyze that side of the players the best you can, for not to have the kind of surprises that sometimes people has, even after investing a lot, and then you have surprises when you are facing a profile of player that you are not expecting to. I remember that my question mark at that time was how that group of players were going to face the atmosphere of an European final, and I was trying to analyze it since the moment we land in Sevilla, with everything around the final that was there. I played an European final before that, when I was in Barcelona, and only my Portugal keeper, that was also with me in Barcelona at that time, had that experience of playing an European final. And everything around, when you land, the hotel, the people, the number of fans, the crazy atmosphere in the city, the opposite fans. Let's see how these guys are going to react. I felt them reacting in the best possible way. And I felt that win or not win, you cannot control, but you can control the way you are going to play. You are going to pace the final. I understood immediately that the boys were ready. We were winning 1-0 and they equalized, and then we were winning 2-1, and then they equalize again, and then you go to extra time, and it's hard. Even for us from the outside is really hard, because a final is, in the majority of the career, especially when you are in Portugal, you think that probably is now or never. You think that is a unique occasion. We were far to imagine that 12 months later we were all playing a Champions League final. So we look to that match as that's the match of our life. That's the match of our career. We can take an European Cup to our country and to our careers, and even our careers, if you want to think about yourself, can explode with that achievement. And we were there. We were there for that. I also feel that Celtic was, and I felt that during the game. They also were there to win it. That's why it was an absolutely fantastic final. So many years after, I tell the same. Sometimes the best investment that you can do is to keep your best players. So when even now people speaks about that club spent X millions buying, and that team didn't buy anyone, I always say, who did they sell? They didn't sell anybody. So they kept all the top players they have. So that's the best investment. And in Porto that season, everybody stayed. So Deco, Ricardo Carvalho, Paulo Ferreira, Valente, Maniche, everybody stayed from one season to the next. And then was just a question to resync the team, especially for that jump from Europa League to Champions League, because in the Champions League, of course, we know we are going to play against the best teams. Europa League at that time, UEFA Cup was a different competition, and we just had to give that step. But that step was also based on the experience and the know-how of the team. So that team was playing in Sevilla the final. A few months later, we were playing in the Champions League group phase, and that was just such a smooth transition. The main changes was that in the UEFA Cup we consider ourselves one of the best teams, and in the Champions League we were not one of the best teams. So when in the Champions League group phase we get immediately Real Madrid in our group, and then in the first knockout Manchester United. In UEFA Cup our group phase was a team from Poland, a Turkish team, then Izlispor, and then we get Lazio and Celtic, but the Champions League is the Champions League. So we know that we are not the best team, and we need to reformulate a little bit our way of seeing the game, because many people think that talent is the only way to win football matches, but there is also the strategic side of the game, and sometimes you need that. Maybe one day I tell everything about my career. Maybe I never tell, but the night before that game, so without knowing what was going to happen, I was in the hotel in Manchester before the game, and I had one agent to take me to another hotel to meet the CEO of a big English club, not the club that I moved for. Was not Chelsea. So I had the doors open even before that. Then obviously you do that, you win the Champions League, makes it obviously different times, because at that time I remember that 2004-05, only two managers from abroad come to England, and was the Champions League winner and the UEFA Cup winner was me and Benitez. Different periods. Now is so much easier to come. At that time was really difficult. Chelsea was quite close to success. They were finishing second, third. They were reaching Champions League semi-final. Even in the years before, a beautiful tradition of winning domestic cups, getting to Wembley and bringing the cup home. Lots of good players, and of course, a new period for the club. The owner, the CEO, the structure. So I think I come in a moment where that was the job. The job was to win it. The job was to bring Chelsea to that dimension. There are not big clubs without a trophy room, and Chelsea at that moment, Chelsea needs to win the Premier League, and I think the way we did it was very strong. was 2 in a row, bump, and then the third season finish second and win 2 cups, the 2 domestic cups, also very close to the Champions League victories. So was a big impact, and I think it lasts for years, because after that Chelsea stayed at that level, won again and kept winning cups, and finally the Champions League. So I think that was the step, that was the job. We come for that job. Obviously, then you think, okay, I'm going to stay for more years. I'm going to work with a different profile. But that was the job, and I felt that was the job, and I felt that the job was very adapted to my mentality, which is go to win. I was following the Premier League, and because we were since the quarterfinals of the Champions League with Chelsea in the same basket, I was also preparing myself to play them, and we were together in the semifinals. And the day after I qualified for the final, I came to Stamford Bridge for the Chelsea Monaco game to analyze them and probably to be my opponent. So I was really aware of the potential of the team, a team that at that time I could split in players that I really love, and I think they have the level to reach the next level with Chelsea. Some of others probably not so much. And then when I joined, there were already decisions made, fantastic decisions. Would be easy for me now to say, Peter Cech, come with me, or Aaron Robben, come with me. No, they come to Chelsea at the same time as me, but with decisions made before I arrive. We go to pre-season, and in pre-season was like a confrontation between my ideas and the way I analyze my players, even in friendlies. And then I thought was very important to play like Ricardo, which was proven that he was for many years really top, and that structure of Peter, Ricardo, and Terry was like a steel triangle that was fundamental for that team. And then Didier was the kind of player that I analyze a lot, because we play against Marseille in the Champions League, and I thought that profile of player is really the profile of the Premier League. And again, was fantastic decisions. But in relation to that, we go back to our history as coaches, and we always have great decisions and also not so good decisions. It was important to win against a direct rival, in the context of 38 matches. You cannot lose many points, especially at home against direct rivals, if you want to win the title. I thought was very important because there was not a contradiction between our words to the players, our ambitions, and then the result of the match. If you say this season is to be champion, and then the first match you lose 2-3-0 at home with the direct rival, you give one step back. So was one step forward. Was a big relation between that match and what we tried to give to the team in pre-season, which was mental strength, being compact, tactical discipline, and then be really ambitious on that approach that sometimes I call it the all-in approach. You have to put everything in that game, in every minute of the game, in every second of the game is all in. is your quality, is your power, is your physical power, is your aggression, is your emotional control. You have to put everything, is all in. And that game was one of these matches where you could feel the all in. Is one of these matches where I feel the game is 90 minutes, but could be 900 minutes. They wouldn't score, and we would always win the match. Always the most important thing is to reach the objective, to reach the target, and the target was to win the Premier League. So then, how you did it, is it important? Yes, it's important. We were defensively phenomenal. We were almost unbeatable, and not just the word unbeatable, because that can sometimes take you in a direction where nobody can beat you. We beat everybody, scoring a lot of goals, playing absolutely fantastic, dominant football, because we were really dominant. But then, when we were in front, we had that ability, we had that capacity to kill teams in transition. In the first season, I remember that we were top of the league since September, and in September, the media and everybody was saying, they will collapse before Christmas, and then they will collapse after Christmas, and then they will collapse in Easter, and then they never collapsed. But the reality is that the team had that kind of positive atmosphere. Also, the players' profile was fantastic. The relation between them was really good, and I think everybody was really committed since the beginning. And the second season was even easier than the first one, because the second we were even more dominant. It was so nice and easy. I can not even choose a moment where I thought that's our Premier League. I think I felt that since the beginning. We were so strong. The team was so dominant. The team knows the moments of the game. The team knows when to be more defensive. The team knows when to be and to control the game by having ball possession. The team knows the crucial moments to kill opponents in transition. We could keep clean sheets so easily. When we were in front, we had immediately that feeling of the game is in the pocket. In opponents, there were also a little feeling of a fear. They want to defend in a low block, but they know that any cross with people like Drogba was difficult. And then they know that when I need the second one, I have a goal scorer like Crespo to come and to play together with Drogba. And then they know if there is lots of set pieces, we go there with the Giants and with Terry and everybody, and we score. They know if the block is too low, that Lampard gets the ball, and from 20-30 meters, in 5 shots, he scores 4 goals. The team was really, really, really strong. Our records at Stamford Bridge was something incredible. So I think every Chelsea fan goes to Stamford Bridge and knows this match we are going to win. We had even a match against Tottenham in the cup that we are losing at half time, and we drew 3-3, and then we go to White Hart Lane and we win, and we qualify to the final, and we win that final. Was that feeling of is impossible. We were losing one game against Arsenal at home 1-0, and then minute 90 SCN from 30 meters put the ball in the top corner. So the team was really strong. Sometimes I don't know if it is a good thing or a bad thing, but that's my way. When I go to a club, it's like a sense of duty. It looks like I feel that is my duty to give the people what the people wants, what the people is waiting for. And the only way to do it is not just by being a good professional, is by being one of them. So what I did with Chelsea was exactly what I did in Porto before. You go there and you are one of them, and I think that's exactly the word. It's like a sense of duty. You have duty to these people, not just to the club itself or to the owner or to the players, to the people. And I try to give everything. Then when you leave, of course, it's never an easy moment, but next day the sun will rise again, unless you are in London and you have to wait a couple of weeks. I think it's very important when you go to a club to know what the club wants and to try to deliver what the club wants. Of course, Champions League is a big question mark always, especially because when you go to knockouts, the knockouts, they have this unpredictability, but also because of the power of the opposition you are going to get. But my agreement with Inter was exactly that. The first season was to keep that dominancy in Italian football, so to win the title for the third consecutive time, but at the same time to feel the needs for the Champions League. And I was waiting, and the moment we were knocked out of the Champions League was against Manchester United. In that moment was the moment where I made my report to the club, and I told the owner and the sports director, for me, this is what we need to bring the team to the next level. And again, I think the work the club did was phenomenal in that summer. The market was tremendous. Then we had some crucial players, some key players to a team that was incredible by in some aspects of the game. And then we went to that Champions League with the ambition, and we did it. We were a team that defensively we were phenomenal on a low block, but I felt that we need to bring the line up 20 more meters to make the team much more dominant, to press higher, to be stronger. And I had a group of central defenders quiet in the last period of their career, and we need a fast center defender. That was fundamental for us. I wanted Ricardo Carvalho. We tried strong. Was not possible with Chelsea. And then, credit to the people that deserve the credit, my little structure in the club. That's why sometimes I say that sometimes simplicity is genius and complexity is to hide that you are not good enough. We had such a simple structure that immediately come with the name Lucio is the perfect player because he's really, really fast. Probably technically is not what you want from a player like Ricardo, but he's really, really fast, and he will give us what we want. Then we need to improve our passing quality in midfield. We had fantastic players, very strong in midfield, people like Zanetti, Stankovic, Montari, but we need to be more dominant, to be more in control. We need different, and Schneider was the key for us. And then in attack, of course, we lost Zlatan to Barcelona, but we changed Zlatan for Milito and Eto'o. So the approach was very simple, and the team become really adapted, not just to keep dominating the Serie A, but also that kind of team, that kind of strong, cynic, intelligent, pragmatic team that could do it in Europe against the best teams. Was not an easy way to do it. We were not a lucky team in the draws. We start by having immediately Barcelona in the group phase. Then we go to the knockout, and we play Chelsea in the first knockout tie. And then we have Barcelona again in the semi-finals. And then we go to the final and we have Bayern Munich. So it was really, really strong. So I think it was a very good achievement for us, but especially because we broke that psychological wall, 50 years without doing it. And if you remember what Inter was in the 80s, in the 90s, almost every top player in the world played for Inter. If you are going back and you remember the Germans, Matthäus, Bremen, Klinsmann, and then you go to Seedorf and to Davids, and then you go to Ronaldo Nazario and Adriano. It looks like every top player in the world played for Inter, and they never managed to do it. So to break that psychological wall was very important. And the game against Chelsea in the last 16 was probably the key moment. Was the moment where people start believing and feeling that we had a team for that, to come to Stamford Bridge and win there. I think was the click that the team needed. I'm quite flexible to adapt. I'm quite flexible to sometimes go against my own ideas, but to choose the right way to succeed in these countries. I am until now the only manager that won the league in Italy, England, and Spain. You need that flexibility. You need that control of the environment. You need to adapt to the reality of the club, of the competition. Even socially, you need to understand the needs, the aims, the motivations of everyone. That's why I say that I'm really, really rich with this kind of experience. That's why I don't close the door to a new country, to a new competition, exactly because I've always liked this feeling of the unknown, and this feeling, can I win? The only thing that I know is what I don't want. What I don't want is crystal clear. What I want, the general profile of it, of course, but I cannot say obviously clubs and country. And I am quite pathological in this sense of I have to play to win. Then if I win or I don't win, then that's my problem. That's my problem, and the players and the club and the structure. But I need a project where the feeling is I play to win. If somebody gives me a wonderful, incredible, amazing 10 years contract and asks me the objective of the team is to stay in the first part of of the table. If you finish 7 or 8 or 9 is perfect. That's not for me. That's my nature. Of course, sometimes I remember what I did before, what I won before, this kind of thing. But is not me. Is not me. So my next is to fight to win. One thing will never change, which is the team that scores more goals is the team that wins, and that is for me the fundamental point of the game. There are many ways to do it, and then is a question, in my opinion, is a question of the competition you play, the players you have. There are many points, like the team with more possession is the team that is more dominant. Depends on the way you look at it. A team without the ball can be dominant. The team without the ball can be, when I say dominant, I say can be in control of the game. A team that is more comfortable with the ball, they have to know what to do when they don't have the ball. And if a team is just there without the ball just to defend, and then when you recover the ball, if you don't know what to do, then you become just a defensive team, and your destiny is in the hands of the opponent. You are going to lose that match. So I think there will be always bits of the style, of the principles of play, that they are going to be dominant. So when a manager or when a team has a certain model of play with the principles of play, some of these principles are always going to be dominant, but you have to cover, in a model of play, you have to cover all the moments of the game. That's why when I started like 20 years ago, I was trying exactly to make it clear a certain model of play, and the moments of ball possession, a position in possession, the transition when you recover the ball, and then the transition when you lose the ball. A top team is strong in all the 4 moments, and then there are other teams where predominantly they are much better in one than another. So I really don't like to say that team is a ball possession team, because if they are only a ball possession team, they don't win. So probably that team that is very good on ball possession, they are also very good in the defensive transition. And the team that is very strong defensively and people think they are a defensive team, probably they are not. Because if they are only a defensive team, they lose all the time. They have to be also very good when they recover the ball, what they are going to do after that. So a team is a puzzle of ideas.